Hi, my name is Susan Townsend. I'm very happy to be here. And today I'm going to be talking about the post-fire monitoring that we've been doing in the East Bay. And I want to acknowledge Tammy Lim, who I think this was her idea. She's been managing the project, helping a lot with field work. And also Lizzie Edson from One Tam. She wrangled the camera trapping data and ran the R Markdown script for this presentation for the camera trap data. And there's a number of other people who've been very helpful in this whole project. And also I want to say that Matthew McCown from Conservation Metrics has also been an important part of this, and I'll be presenting some slides and results later in this talk. Okay, so as we all know, there were wildfires in late 2020. And so we wanted to establish a post-fire monitoring protocol that could be implemented at multiple scales. And we wanted to capture both immediate and long-term effects of fire on wildlife. And we wanted this to be consistent with other regional efforts. And this includes the Marin Wildlife Picture Index project and the POST project in Santa Cruz, both of which I am involved in. We also talked to Kendall Calhoun from Hopland, who's in the Brashears lab from UC Berkeley, and also Lindsay Rich from CDFW. So as I mentioned, we wanted to measure the fire's impacts to wildlife. We wanted it to be repeatable, scalable, and potentially long-term. We needed to address wildlife and monitoring and management needs by providing critical data on species presence, distribution, diversity, and abundance. Another interesting question was to look at, was there a latency to recovery? That is, does the burned area start to resemble, how long does it take for the burned area to basically recover to an unburned sort of status? So we focused on this area west of Brentwood and north of Livermore, sort of near the Round Valley, Morgan Territory, Los Vaqueros Reservoir area. And the red outline shows the burn perimeter. And so we were looking, this is a 1/2 kilometer grid, and we need to find 20 sites in the unburned area and 20 sites to put the sensors in the burned area. And we have 1 sampling site per strata for the bat monitors. Most of the habitat was grazed non-native grasslands as well as oak woodlands with some chaparral up in the Morgan Territory area. So this is what our setup looked like. We had our little audio moss and our camera trap below, strapped to a stake that was pounded into the ground. We used a Bushnell Prime low glow. This is actually a Bushnell Trifficam. The trigger speed is 0.35 seconds, 90-foot sensor range, 20-month battery life sometimes, 6 AA batteries. So we set up the cameras or the sensors within 100 meters of a designated coordinate. We checked on a 3-month maintenance cycle. Cameras were unbaited and the settings were standardized to 3 photos per event and a 5-second delay. And we used detections per event in the analyses. So the seasonal metrics we were focusing on are the number of species detected, detection rates as an intensity of use metric, and the single season occupancy estimate as a surrogate for abundance. I want to talk briefly about Wildlife Insights. It's a camera trapping software that we used for this project, sort of brand new. It was developed by a whole large number of different organizations, some of whom I've been working with for over 10 years, in part on this project. So this platform is developed to try to kind of centralize and speed and sort of standardize, speed up our processing and analyzing the camera trapping data. So go out in the field, set up our sensors, take our images, upload them. There's a computer vision image recognition element. So as you upload it, the image is identified. This is reviewed by a person to make sure it's correct. And then there's going to be these built-in analytics. And so therefore, this hopefully will provide information and the tools that managers need to make good decisions. So yes, just like I've said, data-driven wildlife management, using this image recognition software to hopefully speed the process, and then also promoting collaboration and sharing among researchers and land managers, and also to provide spatially explicit tools and a number of other reporting analytics. And this is the part that I like the most, which is trying to centralize and capture the breadth of the camera trapping across the globe. So here we have the results and findings from our camera trapping. And this gives you a sense of, as we upload the images, we can then see how many are up in the cloud, how many of those are wildlife, the starting survey date, the ending survey date, number of sampling days, as we bring the data into this system. We also have these protocols for camera setup and data management. And Lizzie and I actually have been working on sort of these R markdown cookbooks. So from start to finish, to help sort of clean up the data and get it ready to run these seasonal analyses. So they've been very useful. Okay, so for the findings from, well, at least what I can present now is from the winter of 2021, which does span from December 1st, 2020 to February 28th, 2021. The data I'm going to show today represents about 1,300 trap nights from the burned area and a little over 1,000 from the unburned area. So birds and humans are not our target for this project, but we do get a lot of different species on our cameras. And also we have lots of human categories. And I do want to point out that thus far we are finding more human activity on the unburned grid than on the burned grid. And these are detections per 24 hours. So that just means, like, even if there's several hundred in one day, it just goes to one for that 24-hour period. So this is mammal diversity with the burned and unburned. And this is, like I said, just for this winter season. And some of the differences are that we found the fox squirrel and the red fox in the burned area, but not the unburned area. Another thing, which I think I don't know. So the gray fox, we haven't detected in the unburned area. And I do think that will change as we process more data. So occupancy modeling, we're not just using this as a presence absence for wildlife in the landscape. We are actually interested in this probability detection function, which helps our occupancy estimations be sort of corrected over time so that we can compare between sites and seasonally. And this probability detection function helps correct for instances where an animal may be on the landscape, but we're not detecting it at a survey site. So here's some of this occupancy estimation data. Occupancy is reported as a number between 0 and 1. And then the higher the number indicates sort of more prevalence on the landscape. So in this case, we've got the blue represents burned area and the orange represents the unburned area. And we are seeing some differences. We've got the bobcat, coyote, mule deer, and boar that seem to be more prevalent in that first winter on the burned rather than the unburned site. And then again, just down to the squirrels, we've got the ground squirrel, the unburned area, and the fox squirrel in the burned area. Okay, so now I'm going to present some slides that Matthew McCown pulled together for this talk on their preliminary analyses. So why acoustic surveys? We've got the camera trap which can have our visual targets, but certainly there's a lot going on in the environment that produces sound: humans, birds, insects, and anurans. So you can really expand your range of taxa. Additionally, we've got these audio moths, which are now way more affordable than they used to be. And so a lot of researchers are actually putting way more of these sensors out on the landscape now, so that we can sort of cover a bigger area. We use the acoustic sampling design used by many local researchers. And just to give you a sense of the workflow, we have the recordings. The recordings are collected and go up in the cloud. And then we have BirdNet and other neural network models that help work through the classification process of the, give you a classification of what birds or species are being heard. So for this effort that I'll show today is from this summer, June through August, and it represents 74 nights of effort. I'm sorry, over 2,200 nights of effort with over 4,324 hours of recording with 263,000 sound files. So quite a bit of data there. And here are some of the results from the acoustic surveys. The pink represents the burned area and yellow is the unburned area. These are our different species along here. And as you can see, there doesn't seem to be a lot of difference in terms of occupancy between the detected species. However, we have some pretty high occupancy for some of them, which is kind of great. Kestrel, scrub jay, western bluebird. And we actually got a lot of them on our cameras as well. And then call rates can be sort of an activity metric. And in this case, we did find some differences. The lesser goldfinch, more activity in the burned areas, and western bluebird in the unburned areas. These are three different metrics of diversity, but even among all three, we aren't really seeing a lot of difference between, these are just diversity. The other thing that's kind of great about acoustic is there's a lot of other types of information it's collecting from the environment that can be analyzed and shown in many ways. And so looking forward to looking at that for this project as well. And so Matthew McCown, I think, is going to be around for the Q&A if you all have any questions. Okay, I'm going to just briefly show some of our results from the acoustic monitoring for bats. For the bats, we use the Pedersen D500X units to record. They're basically a long-term monitoring unit with a cable and a microphone. So this is the setup. This is the unburned area in Round Valley, and this is at Los Vaqueros. So in terms of effort, we have we have about 5 days here, up to 24 nights of effort. And so in terms of pass per hour, which is kind of like an activity rate, we do see an increase, or a marked increase in the burned area in the summer compared to the other timeframes and other strata. And the other thing I wanted to point out is these columns indicate the number of species. This is at over 75% confidence in terms of the classification, and then less than 75% confidence in the classification. And this is from, I use Sonobat actually to do the acoustic analyses. These are not vetted, so we will be taking a closer look, particularly at these detections here. But I do want to point out that in the summer and spring for the unburned area, we did detect more species. So here we've got our 0 to 16 of our expected bat species. And in the spring, we can see that there were fewer species detected in the burned versus the unburned area, whereas in the summer, we had 14 versus 10 species detected. So here's some differences between the two sites. This was also reflected in the back call rates. We have the calls per hour here. And so this is the Yuma myotis, California myotis, and the Mexican free-tailed. So we took the species call rates from the more common species. So in the unburned area, we had a higher activity rate at least for this species. However, in the summer, the Yuma myotis, California myotis, and the Mexican free-tailed bat all had higher species call rates in the burned area versus the unburned area. Okay, so that is all I have to present today. And I just want to thank everybody for listening. And I wish I could just sit and show you cool pictures all day, and maybe we can do that sometime. But let me know if you have any questions, and I will be happy to answer them.